Ever since Boris Johnson appointed Lord Frost as our chief negotiator with the European Union, a regular chorus of complaint has emerged from Brussels. Frost is like a bull in a china shop, claims the EU elite. Whereas Sir Ollie Robbins, who was Theresa May's Brexit negotiator, was emollient and civilized, Frost is condemned as confrontational and macho. Yesterday the Republic of Ireland's Europe Minister Thomas Byrne accused Frost of taking a tough guy approach to reforming the Northern Ireland Protocol. It is hard to deny that he has indeed done this, as shown by his threats to trigger the fabled Article 16 of the agreement, suspending its application, if the EU won't accept fundamental changes. Over the next few weeks we will inevitably witness another round of Brexit brinkmanship as Frost seeks to extract the maximum concessions from the EU on trading rules in Northern Ireland before deciding whether to recommend to the Prime Minister that we shake on a new agreement or pull the plug. The key question facing the British public is whether we should continue to back him or instead follow the advice of the Labour Party and support a friendlier approach. Labour's shadow Northern Ireland Secretary Louise Haigh has called on Frost to abandon the threat to trigger Article 16 because the last thing that is needed is more poisonous instability and the prospect of a damaging trade dispute with our nearest trading partners. In other words, she wants Frost to surrender his main leverage in advance and trust the EU to be reasonable. Only those with very short memories could possibly find that advice compelling. Because the EU never responds to weakness with compassion. It was, after all, only Frost and Johnson's readiness to go for a no-deal Brexit that persuaded the EU to reopen the awful withdrawal agreement it had reached with Robbins and May. The same hardball approach yielded dividends again when a trade and cooperation agreement was agreed in the final days of last year as transitional arrangements were about to expire. As the BBC's Nick Robinson told Mr. Byrne yesterday, the EU blinked when there was a threat of a no-deal Brexit. They blinked when the UK refused to move on French trawlers and fishing. And you changed many of those trading arrangements only when you really were worried that he might tear up the deal altogether. Even now, the EU is hoping to steamroller Britain, briefing that it is preparing to enforce what it is calling escalation dominance should we invoke Article 16. This is said to involve suspending the overall trade agreement, potentially gridlocking the flow of goods between the UK and Europe. Yet far from it constituting a maverick or illegal act, the UK has a clear-cut right to withdraw from the protocol. That right is enshrined within the agreement, permitting the triggering of Article 16 if the protocol is causing serious economic, societal or environmental difficulties that are liable to persist, or diversion of trade. Arguably it is doing all those things. A month ago came evidence that the EU knows it is on a sticky wicket when its own negotiator Maros Sefcovic offered concessions, promising to slash red tape and implement checks on goods coming into Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK in a lighter touch way. The EU also knows there is another way the protocol could crash if it is not made acceptable to unionists. At the end of 2024, the Northern Ireland Assembly will hold the first of regular 4 yearly consent votes on continuing it. If a majority of members votes it down, the protocol will cease to apply 2 years later, giving the EU a massive headache about how to regulate trade across the Irish border. Given that elections to the Assembly are due next May, Brussels needs to be seen to negotiate reasonably to make it harder for an anti-protocol majority to be elected. So Frost knows what he is doing when he tightens the UK thumbscrews on his EU opposite numbers. They are not, as Ms. Haig suggests, sincere partners with our best interests at heart. In fact, they would go back to kicking sand in our faces as they did in the days of Ollie Robbins if they detected the slightest sign of weakness. That they don't is a tribute to the cool head of Lord Frost. Having forced the reopening of the withdrawal agreement and then struck an overall trade deal, he is now in the third and final round. And he is already way ahead on points.